Hello, our most valued student. My name is Confident. Welcome to the revision of the Mathematics N2 question paper. And this question paper was written in November 2020. We are currently looking at question number 4, and we have looked at the previous questions, which is 1, 2, and 3. And I will encourage you to grab hold of these questions so that you can use them to revise for your mathematics as you prepare for your final exams. As I said, this is Mathematics N2 question paper, and I'm looking at question number 4. And question number 4 says, 4.1 says, Spa has added water refilling to its services, and customers are served from a transparent cylindrical container closed at both ends with a height of 2 meters. The container has a maximum capacity of pi over 2 cubic meters, and then it says calculate the following. So we are given this statement above to say, if I can take note of the key things, it says Spa has added water refilling to its services and customers. I think you have seen these in many shops now. You see some huge containers where they put and they've got some distilling or some purification system, and they sell this water at a much affordable price. So this is the water refilling services, and then it says it is served in a transparent cylindrical container closed at both ends with a height, that's the first part, with a height of 2 meters. Also, I think the statement that is enclosed in brackets is also very key. It says closed at both ends. The container has a maximum capacity of that, and then it says calculate the following. Now, some of the terminology is important. If they talk about capacity, you must understand capacity is same as the word volume. So when they refer to capacity, they are referring to the volume. As you can see, even the units, it's pi over 2. The unit is cubic meters, which is the volume there. And height in this case is our h. So if I can sketch this kind of a scenario, so we are saying we have got a cylindrical container in this case, so it's more like you've got something like that. It's not accurate as such, but you can get an idea what it's talking about. And then at the base again, you have that. So this is an example of the container, and they are telling you something important. They're saying it is closed on both ends. So I will shade like that just to indicate that this is closed and also that is closed. So that's what they're telling us. So this container is closed on both ends, and then they gave us some key information as to the height. So the distance from the top of the container to the bottom of the container, which is the height, they are telling us that the height is 2 meters in this case. And then they told us the capacity in this case, as I said, is the volume. The capacity is equal to V, which is the volume. So volume there is pi over 2 cubic meters. So this is the information that they are giving. And then the first one says calculate the following: the base radius of the container in meters. Now, for you to be able to find the base radius in this case, what you need to know, as I said, from the information given, you have the volume, you have the height. Now let us look at the formulas to see if ever there is something that connects the volume and the height of a cylindrical container. Remember, this is a cylinder. So if I look at my formulas and if I expand on this formula sheet, and there is a part that talks about the cylinder. As you can see, this is the information I'm going to use. This talks about the cylinder, it talks about the volume, and then says the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So I'm going to use that information for the volume of a cylinder, which is V is equal to pi r squared h. V for the volume is equal to pi r squared h. So remember, I am given that volume and I'm given the height, and in this case where there is volume I put the values, which is pi over 2, that is my volume, is equal to pi r squared, and I know my height. They told me the height there is 2 meters. So this is how you use the information you're given and then you substitute, and from this instance I can now calculate the radius. As you can see that it is the radius that I'm looking for, and the question says find the base radius there. So how do I solve that? In this case I'm actually solving for r squared. I can start by getting rid of this 2, multiply by 2 on both sides, and if I'm doing that, I'm removing that fraction such that I've got pi is equal to 2 times 2 will give me 4 pi r squared. Remember, it's an equation now that I'm solving for r, and then I can move on to divide both sides by 4 pi and 4 pi, so that this will cancel like that, and the pi will cancel to remain with a 1 on top. So I'll be having now 1 over 4 is equal to r squared, or you can rewrite this and say r squared is equal to 1 over 4. Now how do you find your r in this case? You square root on both sides now to get rid of the square. You square root on both sides. Usually you put the plus or minus when we do the square root. You can check this lesson that is covered on the subject of formula. Yes, I'm right. You look at my lesson that I cover on the subject of the formula, where I solve such scenario, and you will have now the r is equal to, now if you look at the square root of 1 over 4, it will give you a 1 over 2. So it's plus or minus 1 over 2. But since we are dealing with the radius, you cannot find a negative radius. Therefore, our radius is positive, which is equal to our positive 1 over 2. So don't leave your answer as plus or minus in this case, because there is no radius or there is no distance. Remember, radius is like distance, so it is 1 over 2, and the units that were given, you must also remember the units. It is in meters. If you forget the units, you might be penalized a mark. All your answers, if it's going to do with the distance, it has to be in the units that is given, and in this case they gave us in meters. So this is how you simplify this particular question. Now if we can move on to the next question, question 4.1.2. In this case it says you have to calculate now the surface area of the container in meters squared. Now the surface area in this case is what they're looking for. Now to find the surface area, if I go back to my formulas, you can see that the second formula actually talks about the surface area here, to say the surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. Now there is information that was given. If I look at this information, they said this cylindrical container is closed at both ends. So when they are saying it's closed at both ends, if I go back to my diagram, you can see I marked the part where it's closed. So this area, this is like the area of a circle. So we've got one circle, and also here we've got another circle. So the circle area of a circle here is pi r squared, and then even the area at the bottom there is pi r squared. So two of them is 2 pi r squared. So I've got that, which as you can see is covered in the formula as 2 pi r squared. And then I need to find, if they're talking about the surface area, it's the whole outside of the container, and in this particular case it will be, if I can use my white, we are looking even also at this part. If I can use, I think that is fine. We are now looking at this inside of that container also. This is part of the surface area. Now this side is the one, when you look at it, they use the formula. If I look at the formula, it is the 2 pi RHL. So this is that particular formula here, which is 2 pi RH. So now if I take this whole formula, 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH here to say surface area, I'll use SA for surface area, is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH. So you have to rely on your formulas there, and then the information you are given, which is 2 pi r. Now if you go back, we did calculate the radius, which is 1 over 2 in this case. So you'll have 1 over 2 squared plus 2 pi, and the r again is 1 over 2. And then remember they gave you the height from the previous statement. The height was 2 meters, so which is 2 meters. And in this case you can simplify directly with your calculator. You don't have to work in parts. So it's 2 shift, you have your pi, bracket is 1 over 2 squared plus 2 pi, again we have 1 over 2, and then we have 2. So this is what you're having. As you can see, it's 5 over 2 pi. Now this 5 over 2, if you press SD, which is equal to 7,8539. Now to round off to 3 decimal places, so as I can see, it's 7,8539, which is 7,854. But I told you can round off with your calculator. You press shift and then you press that mod setup button, and then you look for 6, which is your fix. That's where you can round off. You press the 6, and we are looking for 3 decimal places, so it says fix it between 0 and 9. You looking for 3 in this place. Press your SD, which is 7,854. So that is the surface area. They said in square meters, so that's how you leave your answer in square meters. As they said, it is, you are finding the surface area. So this is the surface area in this case of that particular cylinder. So that's how you simplify that. Moving on to the next, we are still looking at the same question. Now we're looking at 4.1.3. It says, if SPAR refills a 1 liter container for 1 rand, how much money will it make from selling all the water if the cylindrical container is filled to the full capacity? Again, looking at what is key, it says they are refilling, they refill at a 1 liter, will cost you 1 rand. So if you bring a 1 liter container, you will be charged 1 rand. And then says how much money will it make from selling all the water. If they are saying all the water, this is the volume there if the cylindrical container is filled to full capacity. So now what is given, there is a hint which is very important for you. It says 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters. That is a very important part to know. Now we have to change our volume that we are given. Remember, they said capacity. In this case, I told you it is the volume. So the volume here is pi over 2. We have to change it from cubic meters to liters. So if 1 is like a ratio, 1 is to 1000. In this case, of course, it is cubic meters, and this one is liters. So 1 cubic meter is 1000 liters. How about our pi over 2 cubic meters is 2 x. In this case, it's x liters. So now what you do is you cross multiply like that. If you cross multiply like that, 1 times x, in this case, we are going to say x is, in this case in liters, x is equal to pi over 2 times 1000 times 1000. And you do that, you will find that this is more like saying x is equal to 500 pi liters. So which means the capacity of this container is 500 pi liters. Of course, you can change the 500 liter into the pi into the actual liters. Now they said 1 liter, we further say 1 liter there is to 1 rand, or is equal to 1 rand. Now how about 500 pi liters is to x rand? So we don't know how much it will cost, and you do the same thing, you cross multiply, because this is ratio, and you say 1 times x. In this case, we are going to have our x is equal to 1 times 500, which is, remember now this is money, which is 500 pi. So the cost now is going to be, you find the actual pi now, which is 500 pi, then you press your SD, is 1570 rand 796. Now remember, money, you have to round off to 2 decimal places, so the 9 will affect the 7 to become an 8, so it's 1570 rand 80 cent. You can do that with a calculator. You say shift setup 6 and rounding off to 2 decimal places, press your SD. As you can see, there is 1570 rand 80 cent. So this is what they meant to say. They're saying how much money will cost. So you say, in this case, therefore, it will cost 1570 rand 80 cent. So that's how much money will cost for a full capacity of that cylindrical container. So that is how you could have solved it. And if you can look at the mark allocation for these questions, I think the first one was out of 3, the second one was out of 2. 4.1.1 was out of 3 marks, 4.1.2 and 4.1.3 were out of 2 marks. And I think this was a good opportunity for you to score good marks there. Now let us move on to the next question. Now this is question 4.2. We have done 4.1. We're now looking at 4.2, and we're given the function. So this is now graphs, and if I can make it a little bit bigger, but before that, this question is 1 mark, that is 4.2.1. If I can make that more bigger, and then says given the function. So this is what we're given, y is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 6, and it says determine the following. We're looking at the y-intercept. Now whenever you're solving these questions, when they're saying look at or find the y-intercept, and this is where I will encourage you to grab hold of my previous lessons or of my textbook Mathematics N2 for the underdogs, because these questions are actually a must to grab and they are very simplified, it will be easier for you to understand when you come to this section. So they are saying calculate the y-intercept, and you must know that when they say y-intercept, it means x is equal to 0. When they say x-intercept, it means y is equal to 0. So now that's why this question is 1 mark. Says find the y-intercept. So what you do is you're going to write the statement of y is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 6. So that's what you're having there. And remember, x is equal to 0. So what we have is y is 0 squared plus 7 plus 6. And if you use a calculator, that will cancel to have 6. So if they want us to find the y-intercept, you can see that y-intercept is equal to 6. Sometimes they will request this answer in coordinates form, so this is not how you're supposed to write it, but should they request it in coordinate form, you're going to write it like this: when x is 0, y is equal to 6. Usually they want you to sketch such graphs, so you must know this is also 1 point to remember. Now let us move on to the next question, which is 4.2.2, and in this instance it is 2 marks. And if I can also expand this question now, as you saw, the first one was looking at the y-intercept. This one is looking at the x-intercept again. Remember, when they say x-intercept, you must know that y is equal to 0 there. And if you are to solve it, you are having your primary equation or your main equation is that. Now in this scenario, what you're having, remember, your y is equal to 0. So when you substitute where y is 0, you're going to have, in this case, 0 is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 6. And we usually write it as x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0. So usually the way you write it is the equal sign, then the main statement is on the left hand side and 0 is on the right hand side of the equal sign. So now you have got 2 ways of solving this. As you can see, this is a quadratic equation. Why? Because our x, the highest exponent there, the x is x squared. So you have to solve it. You have 2 ways. You can solve it using the product sum, but one quick method that one can encourage is you can use the quadratic equation. If we can look at the formulas, this is my formulas, and there is the part that they are saying here. You can see the graphs there, and if I can even expand further, you can see here they are saying the graphs. They have got straight line, parabola, axes of symmetry, and roots. So now if you focus on the part that says the root of this equation, and you're given x is equal to minus b plus or minus, that's the part that you are looking for, because here what you're solving for, these are the roots, because you say it is equal to 0. So if you can write that equation to say x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you need to know what is your a. In this case, there is a number 1 there, so the number 1 is my a, and then plus 7 is my b, and the other plus 6 is my c. So you are having, in this case, your a is equal to 1, my b is equal to plus 7. It's very important also the signs, just to be careful. My c is equal to plus 6. And if you are to solve that, you're going to have x is equal to minus b, which is minus 7, plus or minus square root of b squared, you put it in brackets, which is 7 squared, minus 4a is 1, c is 6, all over 2a is a 1. So you have got your x is equal to, it will give you two answers, one is positive and one is negative. So if you have that, it's a fraction, which is minus 7. You can start with the positive one, and square root of 7 squared minus 4, 1 and 6. As you can see, that's how you enter it, and then over 2 into 1 like that. So you can see the first answer that you get, x, it will say x, it will be equal to minus 1, and you can play back and change from that negative. So the first one was minus 1, now change to the negative 1, and the other one is minus 6. So you have got x is equal to minus 1, and you have got x, or x is equal to minus 6. So these are the roots of the equation, as they say it. As you saw, it was saying roots of the equation, which are the intercepts. The word intercept is where the graph will cut the x-axis. So also, as I said, they wanted you to find it in coordinate form. You're going to write it like this. Remember, x is minus 1 and y is 0, and x is minus 6 and y is 0. They didn't ask it in this format, but it is also something to remember. It's another way of representing your answer. These are coordinates. Now, I said there are two ways of solving this. You could have chosen to solve it in another way, to say x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0. You could have chosen to solve it using the product sum method, which is my product is equal to you multiply the first and the last one there, which is positive 6x squared. That is my product. And the next thing is my sum is equal to plus 7x, and my factors, which are the factors of 6, is 1 and 6 will give me a 6, and 2 times 3. Now from these two, the one that can give me a 7 is the first one there. And again, if you want to understand more of the product sum method, you definitely need to grab hold of my Mathematics N2 for the Underdog textbook, which comes with videos. I explain a lot on this part. So now this is the factors, and then you write them as x squared plus 1x plus 6x, because that is where in here I've got 1x and I've got 6x there, and plus 6 is equal to 0. You factorize by grouping, take the first two, the last two, x is common, which is x plus 1 plus 6, which is x plus 1 is equal to 0, and you have x plus 1, and then outside the bracket is x plus 6 is equal to 0. Therefore, x plus 1 is equal to 0, or x plus 6 is equal to 0. Then you solve for x, it goes to the other side. You have got x is equal to negative 1. Even on the other side, you have got here x is equal to negative 6. So you can see that you're still getting the same answers as before. Some what they do is they can solve the same question by they spot it. It is x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0, kind of a trial and error. So what they do, they open two brackets and they have x there, they have x there. Now because they have got 6, and then they look at the product, 6 there, they put a 6 there, they put a 1 there. 1 times 6 will give them a 6, and then now they put those two negatives to say that's how they'll get in this case. Actually it's a positive there, it's a positive and a positive, that's why we get a positive 7 there. So this will be equal to 0, taking you back to that particular answer because it is like that. Now whatever way you solve it, the answer will still be x is equal to -1 or x is equal to -6. Now as we move on to the next question, the next question says determine the following the axes of symmetry. This is 1 mark. It's also an important one, the axes of symmetry, and there is a formula that is looking for the axis of symmetry, and in this case this is the formula that you must use for the axis of symmetry. X is equal to -b/2a. So you write that formula. It says axis of symmetry. What are they saying? X is equal to -b/2a. So this is the formula. So you need to now identify what is in this case. Remember when we wrote it previously, I said x squared plus 7x plus 6. We said that was equal to 0, and I said there is a 1 there, and we identified this as our a, that is our b, and that is our c. So if you can look again carefully, we said that represents our a, and we're looking at the coefficients there, or the numbers that are before the x squared and the x. So that is plus 7, and then also the c is like that. So in this scenario, they are saying now x is equal to minus, as you can see here, ba is equal to 1 and b is equal to +7 and a is plus 1. So x is equal to minus b bracket there, and b is 7, that is minus b/2, and our a in this case is a 1. If you use a calculator, it will give you x is equal to -7/2. So that is the axis of symmetry. They say determine the following the axis of symmetry. So this is how you find that answer, and this is very important because not only is it an axis of symmetry, but it is the, if I can write it, it is the x here is the x coordinate of the turning point, which is the TP. So whenever the graph, remember this graph is like that and it is turning there, so it is the x coordinate of that turning point there. Let us move on to 4.2.4, and 4.2.4 is again 1 mark. It wants you to find the y coordinate. As you can see, actually that question is what it's talking about, the y coordinate of the turning point. As I was mentioning the previous question, to say the other one was the x coordinate, so this is the y coordinate of the turning point. So what you do is you have your original equation, y is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 6, and if you remember, you have the value of x coordinate of the turning point from the previous question. We said x is equal to -7/2. That's the answer you use. So whenever there is an x, you substitute now with a 7/2. So you'll have -7/2 squared plus 7/2 plus 6, and you need to use your calculator now to find the final answer. To say -7 over 2, that is squared, plus 7 into 7 over 2, and then it's plus 6. So when you're solving that, it gives us 171 over 4. Now you need to write it at least in decimal places so that you know what you're dealing with, which is actually, if you say it's 171 over 4, which is equal to 42.75. So 171 over 4, which is 42.75 in this case. So this is what then you're having in this particular scenario. That is, as I said, in fraction form as well as in decimal form. So this is our y coordinate of the turning point. Now if you can combine these two, which is not necessary of course, but if you can combine these two, if you take the previous one, remember we said it is minus 7 over 2. If you find it in decimal places, it is minus 3,5. So that is x is equal to minus 3,5. So you will have here minus 3,5, and then the other one will be 42,75. So you see how in actual fact this kind of equation is it is turning at that, and also it is, these are the coordinates of the turning point of this particular question. So that is how this question is shaping. So now when we have done that, we have to at this point, I think actually there is an error with my writing. Now okay, I picked up an error here. Now we said x was in negative 7 over 2. I think I need to correct that. In the second one I did not put a negative, so please correct that one. I have to revisit my calculator again and correct that, which is in this case negative 7 over 2. This was squared. Be careful about that one. I just picked up that I forgot that negative. So plus 7 into negative again 7 over 2, as you can see, plus 6. So it's very important to check that, which is minus 25 over 4. Actually it's changing now, and then which is minus 6,25 in here. So if I can, it's minus 6,25, and in here minus 6, and it's minus 6,25, which was 25 over 4 in this case. It was negative 25 over 4, which is minus 6,25, which also is affecting this side as minus, in this case, 6,25. So that was good to check, because it was going to give us a very different turning point, making it difficult somehow to, or getting this one wrong. And as you can see in the next statement, it says determine the following: draw on a graph paper and draw the graph of y is equal to that on a system of axes. Indicate all intercepts with the axis. We have the intercepts, the turning point, we have the turning point, as well as the line of symmetry with a broken line. So all those questions that they were asking us, we have now to indicate all of those in a single graph. So now if I can look at the graph paper, I have my graph paper given. Now this is a similar graph paper that you use in your final exam. So if I can, as you can see, you're writing your examination number, blah 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 blah. But now if I'm to plot this with the you have to understand the limitations sometimes of the computer, but I'm trying to show you how you could have approached that if you are drawing using the similar, because that's the similar graph paper you'll be given. So what I do with that, I have to divide my line in here, my axis, and I will have these are my x-axis, and go down as far as it can. And it's better to utilize actually 3/4 of the graph paper, but my computer cannot give me the full length if I'm to make it visible to you, and I have to use a scale that is much visible to me. Now before that, if I can go previously now, as I'm dividing my line, to look at the coordinates I'm having from the beginning, I have got the x values is x is -1 and x is -6. And remember, I told you these are more like the coordinates, -1 0 -6 0. So you go as far as -6. And also looking at the y value, okay, this is the coordinate, the x coordinate of the turning point. Now if I look, actually the x-intercept, previously I had the y-intercept. The y-intercept, the first question, it goes up to +6, that's the y value. The x goes to -6, and the lowest point on the graph, x is -3.5, and the lowest point is -6. So that is the y values. They go from +6 to -6 in that case. So even my graph paper can be actually at the center if I'm to draw that one, because it stretches from -6 to +6. As I said, sometimes you'll have a limitation with the graph paper in drawing an accurate kind of a graph, but this is just an example for you to see. So you can, this you need to label as your y-axis, and this you need to label as your x. This is very important. And you divide your graph, and remember you've got this side that is more important. It goes to -6, so you divide your graph equally there. So you have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and lastly you have got -6. You can go to -7 if you want to, but you know the graph is ending at -6. You can have also your positive values, of course, like that, which is 1, 2, and 3. You can go on, but you saw that we don't have the positive values. On the y side, you also have the y part there as +1, and there is +2, that is +3. Remember, you have to jump equal lines. I think after 5 squares I'm jumping here. For every 5 squares, it's 1 unit. So this is 5 for every 5 squares, like 1 2 3 4 5. Those 5 small squares, if I count them, it's 1 unit. I do the same going down, but you can see they are a little bit bolder after 5 squares. So that is -1, which is -2, which is -3. This is -4, that's -5. It is -6. Maybe if you utilize the full graph paper, you're going to jump for every 10 squares. You could have jumped 1 unit. It is still fine as long as you have to utilize more than 3/4 of the graph paper. Avoid a situation whereby you are given the whole graph paper and your graph takes about a small corner. They will actually penalize your marks there. If you draw just a small graph in all the space given, they want you to utilize at least the whole or 3/4 of the graph paper so that your graph is very visible. Now let us look at the points. The first intercept that we're given is y is equal to 6. As a coordinate, it's 0, 6. So we need that point when x is 0, y is 6. So that was the first point there. That is the y-intercept. In other words, the graph is going to cut at that point of the y-axis. Let's look at the x-intercept and saying the graph is going to cut at x is equal to -1 and x is equal to -6. In coordinate form, it's -1, 0 and -6, 0. This also you need. It is going to cut at that point and it is going to cut at that point. Now the next point that we did look at is the turning point, which is important, which is -3,5 and -6,25. These are the coordinates of the turning point, which is -3,5 in the center here of that line. Somewhere there is -3,5 and -6,25, more like -6,2. So if I have -6, remember in each square it is more like counting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So -6,2 is somewhere there. Now if I go this way, and I have minus that one going down, just to show you in your own way, you'll be using a calculator, a ruler. They will meet at that point, but you'll be using a ruler in your case. So that is the point they will meet, and in that particular point we are saying remember x is -3,5 and y is -6,25. Remember they said we must indicate that point, that is our turning point, and we did indicate where is cutting the x-axis. As you can see, the numbers are already given, so you don't need to indicate further. And when you have done that, go back again to the question. It says draw on a graph paper and draw the graph of that on a system of axes. Indicate all intercepts, which we have marked. There are 3 of them with the axis. The turning point, we marked it, as well as the line of symmetry. Says indicate with a broken line. So now if you do that, remember the line of symmetry, we did find it and said the axis of symmetry, x is equal to -3,5. So you come here, they say indicate with a broken line. In this case it is this line where x is equal to -3,5. Actually it is that part. But yours, remember, you'll be using kind of a ruler, so you expect your line to be a straight line. I'm not using a ruler in this case, hence when they are saying that this is the broken line, it must pass through that part. So that's what they are saying. And then if you can now draw your graph, you'll be having your graph, you're drawing your graph, cutting there. Alright, so just to remember, try as much as making it a smooth graph. Turn there, cut there, and again. As you are making it into a smooth graph, So this is how your graph kind of will be looking like. I think you can see the shape is not smooth, but this is how your graph is looking like, and you need to label it and say y is equal to, copy, it's x squared plus 7x plus 6. So you need to label that, and this is how you sketch this particular graph on that. And then the next question now says draw the graph. Oh, we're looking at 4.3 now, still continuing, is 2 marks. It says draw the graph of y is equal to y plus x is equal to minus 6 on the same system of axes used in question 4.2.5, that is the previous question above. So here I'm given this graph, y plus x is equal to minus 6, but this is not the way you can write this graph, but it's still fine. Whenever you're drawing this graph, usually it's good to write it in standard form, which is y is equal to mx plus c, to understand it better. So you'll be having, in this case, y is equal to, take the x on the other side, it will be minus x minus 6. But anyway, you can actually use it like that. You have got 2 points that you need for this graph. The first point is x-intercept. Remember, y is equal to 0. So now if we start with that in the x-intercept, so I've got y plus x is equal to minus 6. So when y is 0, so 0 plus x is equal to minus 6. So what is x? X is equal to negative 6. So we have got coordinates there. When x is minus 6, y is 0. The second point that you're going to have is the point of the y-intercept, just like they were asking us in that part. So the y-intercept, and remember here x is equal to 0. So you have got your y plus x is equal to minus 6. So when x is equal to 0, so you have got your y plus 0 is equal to negative 6, such that you have got your y is negative 6, and the coordinates is 0 and minus 6. So you have to draw these 2 points. When x is minus 6, y is 0, and when y and x is 0, y is minus 6. Remember, they said you must draw it on the system of axes. And another thing to remember, this is a straight line. That is very important. This is a straight line. Why is it a straight line? Because the highest value of x is to the power 1. When you saw the highest value of x being 2, you saw that it became a parabola. But this one is a straight line because the highest value of x is 1, and this equation y is equal to mx plus c is the equation of a straight line. So if you plot these points, minus 6, 0, and 0, minus 6 on the previous axis, when x is equal to minus 6, as we said, y becomes 0. I can have, in this case, a similar point just there, or can look for a different marker, but it might not be clear. And then when x is equal to 0 and y is equal to minus 6, we got another point there, and I can also have that. So now I need to join. This is a straight line that I need to join, like I can have it like that. I hope it's clear, but let me try with my red pen, like that. So this is my straight line I'm having. So that is the straight line I'm having, and this particular straight line there is an equation to it, and that particular equation is y plus x is equal to minus 6 in this case. That's what they meant when they say draw this graph on a same system of axes. So that's how you solve that particular question. Now if you move on to the next question, which is the last one, it was 2 marks, but the total of this section was 21 marks. It says read the values of x. They say values, which means more than one. The values of x for which that is that from the graph drawn in question. That, so you're using a graph, but now what I want to show you here, they are saying from which here x squared plus 7x plus 6. Remember, we're given initially y is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 6, and we're also given if I show you previously, I did write it in this version to say y is equal to minus x minus 6 in standard form. So this particular one leads to that, which is y is equal to minus x minus 6. So you must see that they were actually giving you minus x minus 6, which you can pick up on the other side, and the other one you can pick up on the other side. So what they're trying to say is these are the two graphs that you're drawing, and when they are equal, these graphs, they are only equal at the point of not writing the right word there. These two graphs are equal only at the point of intersection. Intersection meaning where the graph cuts or where the graph meet. So what you do is you go to the graph and look at the two scenarios where the graph is cutting or where the graph meets, and you can see that the graph cut there and the graph is cutting there. Now because it's not drawn to scale, as such, you can actually, they have a range of answers they can accept. So the first one you can see is much clearer. Here the graph are meeting at x is equal to minus 6. As you can see, that point there, it's x is equal to minus 6, and this other point is the one that is a little bit trickier. It is minus 2,24, which is minus 2,25, because each and every square is 2 points, actually 0,2. So you can see that where the graph is meeting x there is equal to, if you go up here, it is minus 2,24. So in this case it is not it's between 2 and 4, which is 2,25 in that case. So when you write it and there it says find the values of x, then you're going to say x is equal to negative 6 or x is equal to minus 2,25. Now this is the answer, but now just out of interest sake, it is possible for you to use algebra to solve this question, just to check if you're in the right direction. So what you do, you write it like that: x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to minus x minus 6. Now they won't give you marks for this one because they said read the values, so you're supposed to read them from the graph, but now you're calculating. You take x to the other side, you take 6 to the other side, you'll have x squared plus 7x plus x, and then you have got plus 6 plus 6, and then you've got equal to 0, which is now x squared plus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. Remember, previously we did the quadratic formula, so this is the same. So in this case, this is your a, your b, and your c. So you've got x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can quickly solve it now and say x is equal to minus 8 plus or minus square root of 8 squared minus 4a, and c there is 12 all over 2, and a is 1. So if you can quickly check the two values of x there, when you enter that, which is negative 8, start with the positive 1, 8 squared minus 4, 12, and then over 2, 1, like that. So the first one is x is equal to minus 2. Actually it was a straight minus 2, and then play back and say negative, and then x is equal to minus 6. So you have got two values of x here, which is x is equal to minus 2 or x is equal to negative 6. So now you know the actual values. You can do that on a rough piece of paper. You can actually come back now to your graph here and try to correct that the 6 was fine, but you know, when you were drawing this particular graph, you saw that, as I said, this graph of mine did some wrong curving. So you can see in actual fact this particular graph, in a way, if it was curving well, the algebra says it was supposed to cut like that, you know, it was supposed to go like that. So you can actually do that. But now, as I said, it's working towards that answer there that you were you found. Then it becomes a little bit more accurate now to say, when you look at that graph, is that point there is now 2. So you can actually now come and correct even your question here to say x is equal to that, or x is equal to minus 2. That is another way of doing it, but as I said, remember, you are trying to be clever now, so you don't show them this, because this is your rough work, but it can allow you to get all your marks in this case. So now, as I said, we've come to the end of this question paper. It was out of 21 marks, quite interesting. But what I like about this section, they covered two sections whereby they were looking at some mensuration, because they wanted some volume and you're using formulas. You have to rely on your formulas, and they also covered graphs in this section. And one thing is, all these concepts that I was using are already covered in my textbook, which is Mathematics N2 for the Underdogs, which already comes with videos. So sometimes you don't need a teacher in front of you. You can actually listen and understand, because these are very simplified videos which can make you understand all these concepts, and you can actually answer them on your own after going through that textbook. I will encourage you to grab hold of it if you get a chance and work your way through some of these revisions, and you will see how this becomes a simplified section. We have come to the end of our revision. Thank you.